1/12. Seems like a tiny fraction, doesn't it? But what if I told you that number, it represents the entire life's work of one of nature's most incredible chemists?
Yep, you heard that right. 1/12 of a single teaspoon. That's it. It's such a tiny amount, it's almost hard to wrap your head around. But that's the grand total of thousands of flights, a lifetime of nonstop work for just one honeybee. Kind of makes you look at a jar of honey a little differently, doesn't it? All right, so let's get into it. In this explainer, we're going to uncover the sweet, sweet science of honey.
So, how in the world did they go from that tiny fraction to filling up a whole jar? And maybe more importantly, why is honey considered one of nature's most perfect foods? We're going to find out why it's so much more than just something sweet. It's a survival tool, a pharmacy, and, well, a cornerstone of our entire ecosystem.
So, to really get a handle on honey, we have to go back in time. And I mean way back. Because before bees were even bees, their ancestors were something completely different.
Believe it or not, the story of the honeybees starts more than 100 million years ago. We're talking the age of dinosaurs here. Their whole journey kicked off with a huge change in what they ate. And the first true honeybees, the ones we'd recognize from the genus Apis, they didn't show up until much, much later.
I mean, look at this transformation. The ancestor of our friendly little bee was a lone wolf, a carnivorous wasp that hunted insects and spiders. But then, something amazing happened. Flowering plants started taking over the planet. Suddenly, there was this brand new buffet available, so this wasp family made a revolutionary pivot. They went from hunting bugs to gathering pollen and nectar. And this wasn't just a simple diet change. Nope. This was the beginning of a partnership that would literally shape the world as we know it.
Okay, but why? Why go through all this trouble just to make honey? Well, this really gets to the heart of it. Think about it. Flowers aren't around all year long, right? Especially in colder places. Honey, it's the ultimate survival kit. It's their way of taking something that's only around for a little while, nectar, and turning it into a super stable, high-energy food that can get them through a long winter or a drought. It is, for all intents and purposes, the colony's insurance policy. All right, let's leave ancient history behind and head straight into the hive. We're about to go inside nature's very own liquid gold factory to see some incredible alchemy at work. Just look at this chemical makeover. It's pretty astonishing. The bees start with nectar, which is really just sugar water. It's like 80% water, full of complex sugars. Left on its own, it would spoil in just a few days. But what they end up with is honey. It's dense, it's super stable, it's only about 17% water, and it's made of simple sugars that are easy to digest. So the big question is, how on earth do they pull that off? It's basically a 5-step assembly line, and it is all about teamwork. First up, a forager bee goes out, collects nectar, and right away she adds her first ingredient, an enzyme called invertase that starts breaking down the sugars. Then, back at the hive, she passes that nectar to a house bee, literally mouth to mouth. This process is called trophallaxis. That house bee and a bunch of others will pass it around, each one adding more enzymes and slowly drying it out. Next, they spread this thickening liquid into a honeycomb cell, and then the whole crew starts fanning it with their wings, creating this amazing breeze to evaporate even more water. And finally, once it hits that magic number, around 17% moisture, they seal the cell with a fresh wax cap. It's just an incredibly precise, collaborative system. And here's what's so incredible. Honey isn't just food. It's also their medicine. See, the same process that makes it last forever also makes it antimicrobial. It's acidic, it has a low pH, and get this, it even has trace amounts of hydrogen peroxide. This stuff turns the honeycomb into one of the cleanest, most sterile places in all of nature, protecting the whole colony from germs. It's literally the hive's built-in pharmacy. But of course, the story of honey doesn't stop inside the hive. For thousands and thousands of years, another species has been completely obsessed with this liquid gold. And that species is us. You know, our relationship with bees started out pretty rough. We were basically just honey hunters, raiding wild hives, which I'm sure was incredibly painful. But we caught on pretty quick and we learned to manage them. The ancient Egyptians were using clay hives more than 4,000 years ago. For centuries after that, beekeepers used these woven straw baskets called skeps. But there was a big problem. To get the honey, you often had to destroy the entire colony. But then, in the 1800s, everything changed. This was the absolute game changer. A guy named Reverend Lorenzo Langstroth noticed something simple but totally profound. He saw that bees always leave a very specific gap between their combs, about 3/8 of an inch. Any smaller, and they'd glue it shut. Any bigger, and they'd build more comb in it. So by designing a hive with frames set at exactly this bee space, he created the world's first movable frame hive. For the very first time, people could check on the colony and take honey without killing all the bees. I mean, that single discovery is the foundation of pretty much all modern beekeeping. Okay, so we've gone from the bee to the hive to our history with them. Now let's zoom out even further to a planetary scale. Because the work this one tiny insect does, well, it has a massive, massive global impact. And this is why it all matters so much. Check this out. About 75% of the world's leading food crops rely on pollinators like bees. Let that sink in. That means 1 out of every 3 bites of food you take, you can thank a pollinator for it. We're talking apples, almonds, coffee, tomatoes, you name it. Our entire food system is pretty much built on the back of the bee. And if you want to put a price tag on it, well, that work has a staggering economic value. The services that bees provide for global crops are estimated to be worth up to $577 billion every single year. That makes it one of the most valuable and honestly most overlooked services that nature just gives us for free. But it goes way beyond just our farms. Bees are what's called a keystone species. By pollinating wild plants, they help create entire habitats and food sources for countless other animals. They're so connected to their environment that scientists can actually test their honey and wax to check for pollution. So when you think about it, a healthy bee population is a sign of a healthy ecosystem. And a decline in their population, that's a huge alarm bell that we absolutely cannot afford to ignore. So, okay, they're clearly super important. So what does the future look like? Well, we're now stepping into a whole new era where technology is starting to reshape that ancient partnership we have with the bee. Welcome to the age of what some are calling precision beekeeping. So instead of just peeking inside the hive every now and then, beekeepers are now using AI and big data to understand their colonies in ways that were never possible before. This tech is being used for everything you can imagine, from monitoring the health of the hive to forecasting how much honey they'll make. Take a look inside the smart hive. It's loaded with tiny sensors that give a constant stream of data, all without bothering the bees. They can track the temperature and humidity inside. They can weigh the hive to see how much honey is being made. They can even listen to the buzz of the colony, and an AI can analyze that sound to predict if they're about to swarm or if the queen is in trouble. There are even cameras at the entrance that can count the bees and use computer vision to spot nasty parasites. It's a totally hands-off way to keep a finger on the pulse of the entire colony. But what if tech could do more than just monitor the bees? What if it could actually help them with their work? You know, with pollinator populations in trouble around the world, this whole new field is popping up: robotic pollination. And we're seeing everything from big drones that can dust an entire orchard with pollen to tiny little micro-robots inspired by bees themselves. Now, the idea here isn't to replace bees, not at all. It's more about creating a backup plan for our food supply. And really, that brings us to the final big question. We've gone from a wasp changing its diet 130 million years ago all the way to an AI-powered smart hive today. Our relationship with the bee has always been evolving. So as we face all these new challenges, you have to wonder, what's the next chapter going to look like? Will the future of our food rely on biology, on technology, or maybe a brand new kind of partnership between them?
Don't forget to like and subscribe for more How Meets History.